Hello, servus and welcome to the Schafkopf tutorial series. Today we will have a look at the Rufspiel, the partners game. And first of all, let's have a look at the cards themselves. So, what are you seeing here on the table? These are the trump cards in a partners game. And they are always the same. So these 14 cards here are all the trump cards in a partners game. They have a rank. The highest ranked trump card is the Ober of Acorns. Then it's followed by the Ober of Leaves, followed by the Ober of Hearts, followed by the Ober of Bells. And the same order is true for the Unters. So the Unter of Acorns, Leaves, Hearts and Bells. And this is the order of the Unters. Remember, the Unters are lower than the Obers. So this one is higher than, for example, this one. And this one is, for example, higher than this one. However, the Unter in Bells is not higher than the Ober in Bells. Or let's give another example, the Unter in Leaves is not higher than the Ober in Hearts. So left to right is the order here, as you can see them for the Obers and Unters. Following the Unters come the suit of Hearts. These are the remaining suit of heart cards. As you can see, the Ober and the Unter is not in here. They are not in this order. And as you can see, the Ace is the highest, followed by the 10, the King, the 9, the 8 and the 7. So you have a total of 14 trump cards in the order Obers, followed by Unters, followed by Hearts. However, keep in mind, in the Obers there is this order, and the Unters there is this order. And in the Hearts there's this dedicated order, as you can see here. So now we have discussed the trump cards. Next, let's have a look at the suit cards. As you remember, there are 3 remaining suits: Acorns, Leaves and Bells. And I have, for example, just lined up the Bell cards here. So it starts, like we've seen in Hearts, with the Ace, followed by the 10, followed by the King, the 9, the 8 and the 7. And the same is true for Acorns and Leaves. Just didn't put it up on the table because I guess you can transfer the same order to the other suits. Be aware that none of the suits is higher than any of the other. So Leaves is not higher than Bells and Acorns is not higher than Leaves, or any other way around. They are just equal. It's different than with the Obers and Unters. They have a specific order with their suits. However, this is not true for the suits themselves. Here, the highest card in a trick, it will always be corresponding to either is it a trump card or is it a suit card. And if the trick was opened up with a suit card, so like a bell card, then the order is given by the bell cards. So a king would be higher than the 7. However, if the ace in Acorns will be put into a bell trick, then, since it was opened up with a bell card, then bells will always be the highest card, aside from trump cards, which will always be higher than suit cards. No rank between the suits. In a suit, in a specific suit like bells, this is the order: 7, 8, 9, King, 10, Ace, where 7 is the lowest and Ace is the highest. So now we have discussed trump cards and suit cards. Let's see how we can actually play a partners game, a Rufspiel. Okay, so here we got our 2 sets of 4 cards, as they have been dealt out from the dealer to us. Let's have a look at these cards. So this is our first set of 4 cards, and this is the second set. So what should you do first? Well, since you are new to the game, I would recommend you giving the cards a thorough order and ordering them in such a fashion that you have the trump cards grouped. We could do it like this, and the suit cards grouped. As you can see, the bells are grouped here together. We have just 1 leaf card, and these 5 are all trump cards. This is the first step. So, as you can see here, we have a total of 5 trump cards with the 2 Obers, 1 Unter and 2 Heart cards. And 5 trump cards is a good rule of thumb which allows you to play a partners game. Well, it doesn't allow you can play a partners game anytime you like. However, with 5 trump cards you have a good hand that you should do so. Now, what's next? How can you actually decide who's your partner? Well, you can't directly decide who's your partner. So if I'm sitting at the bottom of the table, to the left there's a player, to the right and on the other side there's a player. So there's 3 players. However, I can decide that I want to play, for example, with the player to my left or to my right or the one on the other side of the table. I can only play on another ace. And for this ace there are limitations. First limitation is you can't play on the ace of hearts. Why is that? The ace of hearts is a trump card, as you might remember from the start, and you are not allowed to pick a partner with a trump card in hand. Especially, you are only allowed to pick a partner with a suit card in hand, because otherwise they would be stronger than with the other 3. So this is why the ace of hearts is off the table. So there's 3 aces remaining. One you can see here, it's bells. And there are the other 2, acorns and leaves. The next rule is you can't play on an ace which you yourself have in hand. And as you can see, we have the ace of bells in hand, so we can play with the ace of bells. So this is off the table as well. So hearts is off the table, bells is off the table, leaves us with these 2. And then there is the final rule. You can only play with an ace where you have a card of the suit in hand. So in this case, we have a leaves card in hand. This leaves us with the only option to play with the ace of leaves. However, and let's look for the ace of leaves here. So there is the ace of leaves. We don't know which of these 3 players, so the one to the left, the one on the other side of the table, or the one to the right, has the ace of leaves. We do not know that. And thus, it's random. And it is up to chance with which player on the table we are playing with. So in this scenario, as we would be one of the players who has to announce a game, we would announce, well, we want to play a game. Then the other players on the table do have the option, as you might remember, that they also can announce a game mode. However, if everyone else passes, we can announce a partner's game, a Rufspiel, and we can announce that we want to play with the ace of leaves. And this is what we would do in this case. Let's create some other scenarios to see how you can decide and what options you got to play on an ace. So what happens if we remove this card here and we would have this starting hand? Well, this is different. As you can see, we have still the same 5 trump cards. We have 3 cards in the suit of bells. However, we have the ace ourselves. And in this case, we are so-called blocked. In Germany say gesperrt. You're blocked and you can't play on any ace. Of course, you are allowed to play a solo game with these cards, which we will look in a different game how a solo works. However, you can't play a partner's game because you don't have a suit card with an ace where you don't have the ace yourself. This is a special case, can't play here. Okay, let's remove this suit of bells cards and put something like this in our hand. So we have the same 5 trump cards and we only have the suit of leaves as a secondary card. With this hand, we are allowed to play on the ace of leaves because we have leaf cards and it doesn't matter how many of them we have, we can play on the ace of leaves. So imagine we get this hand. We have this starting hand with 2 leaf cards and 1 acorn card, and the rest is still the same. So this would leave us the options to choose which of these aces we want to play with. We can either decide to play on the ace of acorns or on the ace of leaves. However, once we have to announce the game mode, our decision is final, so we have to decide would we like to play with the ace of leaves or with the ace of acorns. So how to choose which one is better? Well, as you might remember, you are forced to follow suit if suit is played out, and in leaves you have 2 options. In acorns, however, you only have 1 option. It would be smarter to play on the ace of acorns because you have to follow suit anyway if someone is playing acorns. Then you play this card. Okay, what if we got 3 options like this? Well, now you can play on any of the 3 aces. It's up to you. The 3 aces are all an option and you can choose which ace you want to play with. Okay, but let's make it simple again and create this scenario which we had before. Let's do it something like this, we would play with the ace of leaves, because in bells we are blocked, we can't play on the ace itself, and on leaves we have the chance to play with the ace. So this would be the option which we would like to play with. This is all for the announcement of the game, how you can decide if you want to play and what restrictions there are to play with the respective ace which you want to play with. So now I will introduce 3 further rules when playing a partners game, which apply and which you have to keep in mind, because they only apply to a partners game. They are not relevant for Vents or solo. You remember that there's the rule that you have to follow suit when a suit card is played. There is a specific rule in a partners game considering the ace which is played on. In this case, I am the partner for the player who's playing with the ace of acorns. So, of course, I have the ace of acorns. And I, as a player, know that I'm the partner of the the player who plays on the ace of acorns. However, the other players don't know that. So what they can do is they can call so-called look for. In German you say suchen, which transfers either to looking for or search. So they can look for the ace. And if the player now plays a suit card of acorns, then the other player here on the right hand side of me has to play acorns as well, if he or she has acorns. And now, as you can see, I have 2 acorn cards. However, in a partners game, if someone plays on the ace of acorns and I got the ace of acorns, and if the acorns is the suit card of the current trick, then I have to play the ace. I'm not allowed to play the 10 here. You have to put in the ace of acorns because it's the ace which is looked for, and thus you have to do that. This is one rule in a partners game. So you're forced to play the ace if it's looked for, or if the suit color is played in a trick round as an opening for the trick round. First special rule in a partners game. However, now let's create another scenario. We also might have the ace of bells, and imagine something like this. So similar scenario. We have a similar scenario here. It's still played on the ace of acorns. So this is the game mode which was announced. We play a partners game on the ace of acorns. And you got the ace of leaves as well. Then you are not forced to play the ace of leaves. Here you are still free of choice if you want to play the king or the ace. It's your choice, because the partners game is played for the ace of acorns and not for the ace of leaves. So it's only applying to the ace in the suit of the color which it is played on. Okay, so the second rule is you are not allowed to play the ace which is played on, which will be the ace of acorns again, if you don't have the suit like here and you could play any of your cards. So you are not allowed to play this card because it would give points into this trick, and you are not allowed to do so. So if this happens and there is a suit which you can't comply with, you may put this 10, for example, you may put this bell card, for example, or a trump card in the trick, but this ace is off the table. You're not allowed to do so. So keep in mind, the ace cannot be played in a trick which is not the suit color of the ace if it's a game on this ace. However, there have to be exceptions. The first exception is obvious, I guess, because if it is the last trick round, so you only got this ace remaining, well, you can't comply with the rule. You just have to play the card if it wasn't looked for earlier. So on the 8th trick round, you're allowed to play it anyways. Or, and there's another special rule, which we'll have a look at now. So imagine like this, there's this trick round which was opened up by leaves, and you can't put a leaf card down because you don't have it. What you could do is, you could play a trick card, for example, like this ace, and then there comes the king. However, a trump card is always higher than a suit card, so you win the trick. And now look closely at the hand which you got. So if you look at your hand here, you got a total of 4 acorn cards. And since the game is announced to be played with the ace of acorns, you know that there are just 2 acorn cards remaining, which would be these 2. So there are 2 players at the table which have to have these cards. Either they are buckled with the player who announced the game, or they are distributed, one for the player at least, because he has to have one of the cards, and another one for one of the opponents. So this or this, we don't know. But if this is the case, if you have at least 4 of the suit cards, you can do something which is called running away. In German you say davonlaufen, so it's running away. And running away means you can open up a trick with the suit, but you don't have to play the ace. But this is only allowed if you have at least 4 of the suit cards, which includes when counting the ace. So you can, instead of playing the ace itself, which you typically have to do, you can put down the 9 and open the trick with the 9. Be aware though, if we wouldn't have won the trick previously and we would have 4 cards in hand like this and someone else before us, so forget about the previous trick, and someone else before us opens with acorns, we still have to comply and bring in the ace in this trick. This only applies if we are the one who starts the trick round. Otherwise, it's off the charts. And these are the 3 special rules. Also, if you ran away, so if imagine something like this happened, and we have this, and then the opponent gets the trick with the trump card. If now the player puts down a suit card, which we don't have, and we ran away previously, we are now allowed to play the ace anyway. So this is different from before. So if we did not run away, we are not allowed to play the ace. If we ran away during the game, we are allowed to play the ace if we can't comply with the suit. So these are the special rules for a partners game for the Rufspiel. Now, next, let's have a quick look at an exemplary partners game so that you can get an understanding of how it works out actually. Okay, so now I have prepared a game of Schafkopf. We are trying to figure out how the partners game is working. In this position, in this game, we are sitting at position 3. So this player is opening up the first trick round, and the player to our left is the dealer. The player on position 1 said he passes. The player on position 2 also said he passes. We said we want to play. Player on position 4 said to pass as well. And then we can give the concrete game mode announcement because all others are gone. And we said we want to play with the ace of bells. Just to clarify, why do I not play with the ace of acorns? Because the fewer cards I got from the suit, the more likely it is that the suit passes on the trick. So this is why we play on the ace of bells. And I've prepared all the cards so I know what is happening up front, but it's just a demonstration that you understand the game, how it works. So the first trick round is opened up by the player who comes after the dealer. Dealer was to the left, remember? Dealer was here to the left, remember that? And he's opening up with bells, so he's looking for the ace. Because, as remember, we as the player don't know who our partner is, and the opposing players don't know either. So now this is telling us, well, either he's running away because he has so many of the suit, or he's looking for the ace. Bells, then the player to the right has to comply the suit, also bells. We also have to follow the suit here. And now on the left hand side there's the ace of bells, and now we know that we are playing with the player to our left and we are building a party in this game. The trick is won by the player to the left, and the trick contributes to both the player to the left and our scoreboard. Now, since the player to the left won the trick, they have to open up the next trick. And like there's good practice, if you are the playing party, you open with trump cards. Why do you do that? Because you want to eliminate the trump cards from the other players on the table. And since you are the one who announced a game mode, you typically have more trump cards in hand than the opposing party. That's why a player either be it the partner or yourself, tries to force trump rounds. The opponent on the other side of the table has to play a trump card as well, because as you remember, the Unter is trump, the suit of hearts is also trump. Then the player on the right takes it with the Ober. And as you might remember, the Ober in acorns is the highest trump card, so we can't take this trick for us and we can win it over. What we do is we give the lowest trick card in, because this is not giving any points to them, and we need the lowest trump card of course, and we need the higher trump cards for later tricks. So this is why we play a low trump card. The trick is won over by the opposing party, the player to the right. However, the same is true for the opposing party, so the player here on this side and the player here on that side, they build a team and all the tricks won by them count to their scoreboard. Since the player to the right won the trick, he opens up, and as an opposing party, you typically play not trump cards, you play suit cards. So previously we have seen bells, now we see leaves. As you might remember, we have to follow suit. However, we can't because we don't have any leaf card, so we are open to play any card. Since leaves was not yet played, and with the acorn cards we got, we will only discard points and give them in the worst case to the opposing party. We decide on taking the trick with a trump card. So we try to win this trick over with trump. Our partner is giving us points, and the opposing player here is giving the 10 in leaves. So the trick is won by ourselves. The trick contributes to our score, and we can continue and open up with a next trick round. And as you remember, a player tries to force trump cards, and since we have the highest 2 trump cards in our hand, we can start nicely with this high trump card with the Ober in leaves. Our partner also has trumps remaining, and it goes like this. Since the Ober is the highest, remember this is the second highest in this trick, the third highest and the fourth highest in this trick, not overall in the trick, but just as a quick recap. So we win this trick, we open up again with trump, then we got another trump. This is the fourth highest, as we might remember. There's still trump cards on the table. However, this has to be the last trump card. As you remember, there's a total of 14. We took the trick with leaves with a trump card. We had 3 tricks with each 4 trump cards. And 3 times 4 is 12. With the ace it's 13. And with this one we have 14. So this is the last trump card on the table. Now let's open up with acorns. Didn't have that yet. And why do I not play the 10? Because the ace is still higher than the 10 and we want to win the 10 for ourselves. So there comes the ace. This trick is for the opposing party, and then the player here can open up with leaves. There is no leaf card anymore. We take the trick with the Unter as the last trump card on the table, and since we know that the ace in acorns is gone, we know this is the highest card in acorns, and since there is no trump card remaining on the table, we will win this trick as well. And now what we would do is, these are all the tricks which we have won, and we would count the points in them to determine if we won the game or not. And let's give a recap. So 11 points from this, plus 10 is 21, plus 4 is 25, 36, 46. We are now on 53, 55, 58, 61, 63, 65, 77, 76, 80, and we got a total of 90 points in this game, which made us the clear winner. So this is how you play out a partners game. Okay, so let's recap. If you want to play a partners game, you can only play a partners game with one of these 3 aces as your partner. You don't know up front which player on the table has the ace, and you must have one of the suit card of the respective ace which you want to play with in your hand. You can't play on an ace where you got this ace in your hand as well, so the ace has to be with any of the other players on the table. And just to give you some trivia at the end, let's have a look at names for these cards in German, which you might want to know because it's really funny. So this is the ace of acorns. In Bavaria or in Germany you say die Alte, oder in Bavarian slang, die Oide. It means the old one in female version. Then this ace is called die Blaue, which is translated to the blue one. Kind of obvious, isn't it? Because it's leaves and leaves the screen. I assume it's because of the blue here. I don't know the traditional sense of where it's coming from, but this is my assumption. And this one here on the right hand side, the ace of bells, it also is called die Pumpe, which would translate to the pump. And there is another name, which is the one who is by the dog, and I censored it out, but I guess you can get the meaning if you have a closer look at the picture. Typically also in Bavaria or in the game itself, in Germany, you say you play with an ace, but in Germany you also say we play with a Sau, which translates to Sau. Yeah, it's the same sound. So with a pig, as you can see, the ace in bells, it's a Sau, and it was just transferred to the others that you play with a Sau. So if you play with the acorns Sau, or in Germany you would say the Eichelsau, die Grassau, Schellensau, this is how you would just announce it. I would play with the Eichelsau. So this is just some trivia at the end. I hope you got an understanding of how Rufspiel works. And if you have any questions for the partners game, leave them in the comments down below and I will try to answer them as quickly as possible.